Hello everyone! In today's video I'm going to show you exactly how to create and deploy your own profit sharing token on Arweave. If you don't know what a profit sharing token is or where to even begin, don't worry, I've got the perfect video for you. Just click the link in the top right of the screen right now. And without further ado, let's get into it. So to create and deploy your own PST, there is only really a couple prerequisites. Firstly, you're going to need some form of Node.js and npm installed. This is widely available on the internet, and it's just something that lets you run JavaScript outside of your browser. If you're on Windows, I highly recommend you use NVM, and we'll leave some links to that in the description below. The only other thing you're going to need is an Arweave wallet, or more specifically an Arweave key file, which is from your wallet, and that wallet should have a little bit of AR in it just to cover the costs of deploying your contract. Now, I've just opened up a brand new project on my PC, and I'm going to open up a new terminal and install a couple packages that we're going to need that are going to make it really easy for us to deploy our contract and also interact with it in some shape or form in the front end. The first package we're going to install, quite unsurprisingly, is Arweave, and we've given this the -g flag here, which installs it globally on our system. And the reason for this is so we can use the Arweave command line interface tool. So I'm going to install this and then come back. And as the second package we're going to install is actually for interaction in the front end, we can leave this one for a second. So moving on to deploying the contract, there's really two parts which we're going to need, and that is of course the logic of the smart contract itself, and a sort of initial configuration file or some initial settings that our smart contract is going to have. Arweave themselves have provided us a template we can get started from for this. I'll leave a link to it in the description, and I'm going to copy it over now and fill it out and just walk you through what each part of it does. So I've created a new file called token-pst.json, and inside of this I filled out that template that I've mentioned. So for this contract, I've given it the ticker, which is just its symbol test_pst, because I'm just doing this for the video. For the owner's wallet, I've of course put in my wallet address, can evolve is true. And then we have balances, which is going to be the initial distribution of your token. So, okay, let's just say you wanted to hand out 10,000 of these and you wanted them all to yourself to begin with. You would just put in your address here and you change this number here to 10,000. And you can also add other addresses here with other balances, of course, if you wanted to distribute it among founders or something like that. So now we have this information set up that we want our smart contract to have. So now all we have to do is get the actual logic of the smart contract. And again, Arweave has provided us with some amazing resources to do this. And just to demonstrate this, I'm going to quickly summarize or explain the command we're going to write to deploy our contract. So looking at the terminal down here, we're going to run a command that is going to basically mimic this in a way. And this is using the Arweave package we installed earlier, and it's Arweave create. Then we're going to link the path to a contract file, our configuration file, which is what we've just made, and then also mark a key file, which is the wallet we're going to deploy it from. Now, what's brilliant about this is this contract file right here doesn't have to be a local file. We can actually leverage an already created profit sharing token template that is live on Arweave. And that is exactly what we're going to do. So here you can see now I've changed this command just a little bit, and what I've done is I've put the hash to the already deployed contract here, which we're going to use to deploy our PST. I've put in the name of our configuration file here, so token-pst.json, it's the same as the one right here. And then I've also added my key file that is going to publish this contract from. Now I've hit enter, you can see it pops up with the Arweave command line interface. This is the reason we installed it globally earlier. And it says everything is ready for creating your contract. Please review the following info. It's going to tell me how much it's going to cost. And it's going to get me to write a random adjective and press enter just to check it's something I really want to do. So now you can see I've put in the word it asked, which was Craggy, and I've got a contract with an ID which has been successfully deployed to Arweave. It's giving you the ID of the contract, which might be quite important to note down, as this is essentially the contract ID we're going to need to use for the front end. And really guys, it's as simple as that. You might have to wait a few minutes for your transaction to be picked up and start to begin getting mined, but that is the first half of your profit sharing token out of the way. I do recommend that you try and read through the smart contract at some point just so you can see the code behind your profit sharing token. It's actually quite a short and simple contract. And also it will allow you to make use of some other functions such as transferring out more tokens. Say for example, you wanted to give some profit sharing tokens out to the community or to some other team members. There's methods for you to be able to do that as well with the Arweave CLI. But from here we can start setting up the second half of your profit sharing token, which is going to be a function that allows you to distribute Arweave fees to your token holders. So let's get into that. Now everyone's front end, their website is going to have some sort of different function or might be using a different framework. So I'm going to try and make this quite broad so you guys can take this function and use it in the way you want to use it within your app. So I'm just going to start by creating a quick boilerplate Next.js app, just so I can show you what you're going to need and what you're going to need to set up in order to get some Arweave distributed to your profit sharing token holders. So here I am, I've created my Next.js project, and we're going to need to install one more dependency here, which is literally just called Arweave. So we can run npm install Arweave, and that's all we have to do. Depending on where you installed the Arweave package earlier, or depending how the packages are managed within your app, you may need to also install Arweave again locally. So I'm just going to install both just to be on the safe side. Okay, my packages are installed, so I'm just going to navigate inside of my app and go to the home page. And I'm going to delete a lot of this boilerplate code because I don't personally need it. And I'm just going to put in a little title. And I've also just added a little button as well that says send fee. Okay, so how do we set everything up? Well, in 3 simple steps, we need to set up an Arweave client, which is going to connect us to Arweave. We're going to need a method to pick a PST holder to distribute the Arweave to, because remember, it needs to be distributed to a single holder, not divided up and split among hundreds of people. And finally, we're going to need to create a transaction to send the Arweave to this holder. Up the top here, we're just going to need to import Arweave from Arweave. And we're also going to need to import a couple functions from the Arweave module. Okay, so that's literally everything we need to import. So I'm going to come down here into my main page and I'm going to set up an Arweave client. So I'm going to write Arweave equals Arweave.init. And I'm going to pass it an empty object. And the reason I'm doing this is because if you just leave it empty like this, Arweave will automatically connect you to a web gateway or a web node. So there isn't actually anything you need to do. This is us connected to Arweave just here in this one line of code. Now we'll also store our contract ID here. If you remember from earlier on in the video, I mentioned to keep one of the IDs safe, so you can get that and copy and paste that in here. Or if you forgot to do that, just head to your wallet and find the data transaction ID. You'll be able to find your contract ID very, very easily. That's the majority of the constant setup, so let's create a small function which will allow us to distribute this fee. And then you can use this in any means or method that you prefer that suits you and your application. We recommend that, of course, you tie this in with when the user performs an action within your app. So here I'm creating a asynchronous function called send fee. The reason it's asynchronous is because we're going to need to await some information either about the state of our contract, but also to send and manage transactions. So it's going to read the contract, which takes in our Arweave client and says, hey, Arweave, can you tell me some information about this contract? And now because we have the information about the state of this contract, we can now select a holder based on this. And we're passing this constant the select weighted PST holder function from SmartWeave. This reads in all of the addresses and their balances from the contract and picks a holder who is going to receive this fee. So now let's create the transaction that will distribute some Arweave to this holder. Here is now where we've set up the details of the transaction. So it's going to use Arweave to create a transaction. The target is obviously who is going to receive this Arweave, which is the holder we've picked out. And the quantity I've set as 0.1 AR, which is pretty standard. And be careful when you put this in here. This is a string. This isn't a number. This isn't a float. This is a string of 0.1 AR. I've also converted it to Winston, which I'm not sure if it's completely necessary, but it's what I do and what seems to work for me. And from here, all we have to do is ask the user to sign the transaction and then post it to the blockchain. Okay, so here I've set up the signing and the posting of the transaction. Just bear in mind that if you're dealing with key files and stuff like that, you may need to pass in a wallet here, so something like this. If you don't, it's just going to automatically use the person's web wallet. And this is fine for me because I want someone to be able to interact with the app through Connect. And as a side note, what you can also do, which I like to do just when I'm testing, is set this up as a constant of response. And then you can console log this response here. So when you're testing your application, you can make sure that if you get the response status of 200, you know that your transaction has gone through successfully and your app is working. So lastly, I'm just going to add an on-click function to this button here. And on click, I want it to call the send fee function that we've just set up. So let's head to the browser and just see what happens when we click the button. Now we're on the website, all I can do is click send fee and you'll see we get this Connect pop-up. It's going to ask me to put my password in and it's also going to ask me to sign a transaction. And when I do that, it's going to distribute that AR, that 0.1 AR, to one of the holders of my PST. Now I'm not going to do this because I'm the only holder of the PST, but I hope this gives you an idea of how you can use the send fee function in your own front-end application. And that is how you can create, deploy, and set up your own Arweave profit sharing token. If you found this video useful, please give it a like and comment below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!